Hello and welcome to the Infowise HR recruitment process site template demo. The system enables you to create and manage a multi-stage HR recruitment processes just by using SharePoint native environment and Infowise components. This HR process contains 5 stages, starting from the HR representative initiation stage and going through the technical interview, HR interview, and the division approval stages, and the process ends at the HR manager final approval. So let's get started. The process can be initiated either by sending or forwarding an email with a CV attachment or by creating a new item at the recruitment list. Let's start with the email sending method. The main idea here is to make the recruiter life much easier. Usually the candidate sends their CVs attached to an email to a corporate mailbox, for example like jobs@infowisesolutions.com. And the HR recruiter job is to go through all of those emails, find the most relevant ones, and move them further onto the process. With Infowise HR recruitment template, the HR recruiter can easily forward an email with a CV to the HR recruitment email, and this action will start the process. Let's see how it works. Let's go pick an email, forward it, and that will start a new process. You can see that there is a new item on the recruitment list, and you can see that the process started, and you can see that the CV is also attached to the list item. The other way is just to add a new item to the recruitment list. This will start the process as well. Let's add a CV file. What are we seeing here is a wizard style form. The HR recruiter initiation stage contains 4 internal steps. Let's fill out the form. When I click next, you can see that the system is not allowing us to enter an invalid phone number. Let's fix it quickly. Click next. On the second step, the HR recruiter has to classify the candidate by picking a classification from a list. Picking a classification filters the sub-classification list accordingly. There's also a possibility to add a new classification directly from the form, as well as for the sub-classification. Let's fill out the rest and move forward. On the third step, the HR recruiter has to associate the candidate with the appropriate business unit. This is the HR recruiter approval step, which is the final step for the HR recruiter. Here, the recruiter has to complete a set of predefined initiation tasks. Completing a task is very easy, and it's made by clicking the complete link of the specific task. Right after the tasks, the recruiter has to fill out the salary expectations. And then the most important thing is to choose if to approve or reject the candidate. Another option is to reject and notify the candidate, which means that the system will send a rejection email to the candidate. Another option is to put all the process on hold. So let's choose to reject and notify the candidate. Now the system is supposed to send a rejection email to the candidate. Let's check the recruiter email and see the rejection letter. Here it is. Let's go back to the list. And now we are going to approve the candidate. Now you can see that the HR representative approval status changed to green and approved. After the HR recruiter approves, the system sends out an email to the owner of the next stage. That would be the technical interview. Let's switch to the technical interviewer user. First, we would need to check the technical interviewer email. Here we can see that the technical interviewer received a new email from the HR recruitment to review a new candidate. The email contains the candidate details and a link back to the system. Clicking on this link brings us to the technical interview stage. Here, the technical interviewer can go back and see all the history from the previous stages, of course in a read-only mode. Then the technical interviewer has to fill out the form. Okay, role assignments. Here, the technical interviewer has to assign role or roles to the candidate. Assigning a role is very easy using the role assignments form. We just need to pick a division, then department, and then a role. If the role does not exist, we can easily add it using the new entry link over here. Let's add another role. Finally, the technical interviewer has to approve or reject the candidate. Rejecting the candidate moves the process backwards to the HR recruiter for further actions. Approving the candidate moves the process forward towards the HR interview stage. The next stage is the HR interview approval. So let's go back to the HR recruiter mailbox. Here we can see that the HR recruiter has received a new email from the HR recruitment system. The email contains the technical interview details, the candidate details, and a link back to the system. Clicking on this link leads to the HR interview stage. Here the HR interviewer can first see all the history from the previous stages and to decide if approve or reject the candidate. Approving the candidate moves the process forward to the division approval stage. The next stage is the division approval. So let's switch to the division manager user. Here we can see that the division manager has received an email from the HR recruitment system to review a new candidate. This email contains all the history of the process, such as the HR interview, technical interview, candidate details, and a link back to the system. Clicking on this link takes us to the division approval stage. Here the division manager can go back and see all the previous stages and all of their history. And then the division manager has to fill out the form. First of all, the division manager has to assign a role for the candidate. Assigning a role is very easy. You just need to click on the click to assign link, and that will assign the role. You can see that the assigned role is marked by a yellow row. Finally, the division manager has to approve or reject the candidate. Approving the candidate moves the process forward to the HR final approval stage. The next stage is the HR final approval. So let's switch to the HR manager user. Here we can see that the HR manager has received an email from the HR recruitment system to review a new candidate. The email contains all the process history so far, such as the division approval, the HR interview, the technical interview, the candidate details, and a link back to the system. Clicking on this link brings us to the HR manager approval stage, which is the final stage of our process. Here, the HR manager can go back to the previous stages and see all the history. And now the HR manager has to decide whether to approve the candidate or not. And according to that, to choose an action. So let's approve the candidate and finish the process. And we're going to send a job offer as well. Let's pick the hire date and and the job offer expiration. That was the last stage of the HR recruitment process. Now let's have a look on the job offer that the system has generated. You can see it right over here. Let's open it. The job offer is a PDF file which incorporates data from the recruitment list items. You can see the role over here, the division, the approved salary, and so on.